here.
We all set?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Are we good, David?
Yep.
All right, let's get rolling. Welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It is March 11th and it is still daylight outside.
Yay.
Even though daylight savings can
Still,
take
it
a
takes
long chunk of a short pier.
it takes a heavy toll on us. Yeah.
So, having just left an executive session regarding a personnel matter, I believe we have a motion to address.
I move to appoint Matthew Dean as Emergency Management Director and Inland Harbor Master with the terms expiring June 30th, 2024, with no additional compensation beyond his Public Facilities Director compensation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. Thank you, Matt, very much. And before we get going, Kern, would you read the quote of the evening, please?
I'd be glad to. Democracy is a slow process of stumbling to the right decision instead of going straight forward to the wrong one. Anonymous.
Thank you. And I'd like to open the podium for any non-agenda items. Seeing nobody jumping up and down, let's move along to the administrator's report.
I just want to let the board know that the plan is, as of Wednesday, to switch dispatch for fire from Knox to Waldo. Although we talked you talked at your last meeting about possibly having to vote, that formal vote is not necessary since we're already in part of Waldo County. They planned and included us in that. The radio switch over will be done on Wednesday. EMS will remain with Knox because that's where Northeast is located.
And we gave Knox
Yes.
notice.
Yeah, I didn't write that down well. Yes, we've notified both communications in Knox and the interim county administrator in Knox of our plan.
Great.
Once again, March 10th, we had a nice little storm event, or not so nice little storm event. Most of the damage was focused at the beach area, once again. Fortunately, we haven't done the repairs from the January storms. But we're picking up debris as maybe not as we speak, but a lot of that came out earlier today. And we'll just leave it at that, I guess, unless you've got some specific questions about the storm.
My only question is this wonderful draft warrant that we have later here in the agenda with an amount of money to fix damage, is that
That's still our best
whole?
estimate of what we're going to be, and since the budget committee's already acted, I think probably it's
Okay.
appropriate to plow forward.
Okay. Have a conversation at a future date about
Yeah,
what to do.
yeah.
Okay.
Benefit of anybody that's here in the audience or listening at home, nomination papers are available for select board, school committee, 5-town school committee, and budget committee. A number of people have already taken out papers for those, for some of those positions, but we have more, so feel free to come see us during normal business hours. Take those out. We also had a conversation about inviting Maine Department of Transportation to come down and talk to us about the parking study. My understanding is that they have closed on the acquisition of the McLaughlin Lobster Shack property. And I got a no in terms of coming, and I've asked them to reconsider. At this point, they didn't think they had anything that they could share that would be worthwhile.
From their perspective.
It would be wonderful if they would be willing to come and listen to community concerns, if nothing else, while they're making whatever plans they can't share with us.
Would it help if we sent a letter to them? Or no?
I don't know. Who's this person's supervisor? Can we
I don't know. I'd be happy to find that out.
Okay.
It's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, because we did have someone coming down about the ferry, project.
Although when they came, it was so far into the process. I mean,
It was.
they already
It
had
was, but at least-
planned everything. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't seem to understand that we'd like to have a voice at the
Yeah,
table
yeah,
when
but at
they're
least
planning.
somebody came down.
Yeah.
That was my point. And,
Either that or they understand you'd like to have a voice at
At
the
the
table
table.
and
Yeah,
prefer
that's
not to
right.
hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can go higher up the chain of command and say, no, really, you don't have to divulge anything, but you can listen to us. Or pretend to. Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think that's about all I want to contribute beyond the agenda at this point.
Okay. Any questions for David on the administrator's report? All right, let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here at the town office unless announced otherwise. The Conservation Commission is meeting Thursday, March 21st, 3 p.m. at Duck Trap or at the end of Howell Point Road. And then they're going to continue their meeting on Thursday, March 21st at 4 p.m. here at the town office. The Duck Trap meeting is follow-up to, if you recall, the Conservation Commission had made a pitch to explore a concept at Duck Trap Park.
Mm-hmm.
And the person's coming down to go over that concept with them and get some feedback. So they're starting with a tour. And believe it or not, the only other meetings we have scheduled is the select board is scheduled to meet next on Monday, March 25th, 6 p.m.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Seeing none, let's move along to the meeting minutes from the 26th of February.
I move that the board approve the February 26, 2024 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And before us, we have a request for overweight permit for Youngtown Road for Freedom's Edge cider. We do have correspondence from Freedom's Edge cider. And as you can see in our packet, unfortunately, there's a technicality requiring a change of use or an amendment to their site plan, commercial site plan review. Which I think really should be taken care of first before we take action.
Mr. Kaplan is here, by the way,
Yeah.
if you need to speak with him.
Yeah, does anyone wanna ask questions of?
Oh, I'd love to hear
of
from
the-
him, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, would you care to come up to the podium and introduce yourself?
Sure, love to. Hi, I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but I'm glad to be here.
There you go, right?
So here I
We
am.
don't bite often.
Me neither. So I'm Andy Kaplan. I'm the owner, one of the two owners of Freedom's Edge Cider. We're a hard cider company based in Albion, the edge of Freedom, Maine, which is where the name comes from. We have a business relationship with Cellar Door Winery, and Bill from Cellar Door is here today. For the past year or so, Cellar Door has been doing fermentation for us on a kind of a contract basis. The process of making hard cider is almost identical to the process of making wine. In fact, as far as the state and the federal authorities are concerned, what we have in Albion and what Cellar Door has in Lincolnville are both wineries. Cellar Door had been producing cider for us, fermenting it. We had it shipped there. They would ferment it. They would ship it back to us. And as time went on, it became clear that was a pretty inconvenient operation for us. It was a lot of logistical hassle. We have a very small building, a little barn out there in our orchard in Albion, and Cellar Door has a beautiful winery that they use heavily for part of the year and not much the rest of the year. So Bettina and I embarked on a process of getting legal approval from the state and federal authorities to enter into what's known as an alternating proprietorship agreement, which legally means the winery is still Bettina's, but during the time when Freedom's Edge product is being made there for the purpose of the paying taxes and the liabilities that the state requires us to have, Freedom's Edge is the responsible party at that moment. So we entered into that contract with them. It was approved by them late summer, I guess. We've been in the process of figuring out how and when to move into the building. Both Bettina and I were under the impression that we did not need to get any planning board approval, and we seem to have we're being disabused of that notion, I guess. We felt that because there was no physical change to the building that was occurring, there was no construction occurring, and there was no change in use, it was a winery, it will still be a winery, that we didn't need it. Frank, in a conversation last week, made it clear that the town, the planning board would like to sees it differently and would like us to submit an amended site plan to them, which Bettina has actually put together and now completed and is prepared to share with Frank and with the planning board. But we didn't. We had no. We didn't. It was no malice intended for us not to come to the town. We just simply weren't
Sure.
aware that there was any reason for us to do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, of course.
here we are. The interim request was simply because of the posted road situation. We had moved in a lot of the stuff that was specific to our use into Bettina's building already, but with the posting the road, we had one last trip that couldn't be done in a box truck and needed we have these pallets that are for our empty cans that are quite tall, so we needed a truck to do it. So that was the purpose of our coming here. And in the course of that, David and Frank let us know that we should be thinking of an amendment, which again, we're happy and prepared to do. But in the meantime, we really wanted help, or either maybe Cellar Door should be the one requesting the approval to get some stuff into the building since it's theirs. And what we've told Frank is that we have no intention of entering into the agreement or operating under the agreement until such time as the planning board has approved what it needs to approve. But nevertheless, since they are Cellar Door in the interim would be contract manufacturing for us, as sort of they've done up till now. They're still going to need the stuff in the building to do it. So I guess if you tell us that Cellar Door should be really requesting this, not us, that's perfectly reasonable. But we're hoping to get the okay to sneak some stuff up the road as soon as we can to get it into the building.
Well, I think you gotta love bureaucracy, right? But it seems that should be a fairly straightforward path, and hopefully our code enforcement officer will be helpful in getting you guys pointed in the right direction. But I think until all those T's are crossed, I think we'll just, I think my feeling is that the board should err on the side of just tabling the approval tonight. But, perhaps, our next meeting is the 25th. You may have everything sorted by then.
When are you scheduled to be in front of the planning board?
We just found out about this on Friday, so
Gotcha.
we did our amendment to our site plan today, and we'll present it to Frank tomorrow. And as soon as we can get in front of the planning board, hopefully on an informal basis, to explain that we're really not changing anything, as soon as we can.
Okay.
I think from our standpoint, it's actually urgent that we get this stuff there immediately, because we do need to. We have customers that are awaiting product, and because we were in the middle of the move. We're no longer in a position where we can can at our own location. We can only can at the new location, and we need the cans. So we're hoping. We were honestly hoping for a cold day so we could just bring the truck up without it. And, it's just given the weather, it just hasn't been
Yeah.
one. So that's really the only reason we were making the request in the first place. It's just day after day it was not below 32.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yes.
So assuming that it doesn't go below 32 again, I see you've got options in here, but each option kind of ends with,
Yeah.
but we can't do that.
yeah, there is
I
no
mean-
good. We really need to get our cans like ASAP up to that building. And so the last option is to carry them one by one. We really do need this.
Well,
Yeah.
are the cans the thing where the pallet?
The pallet is
the truck-
tall. It's unfortunately too tall for a box truck. on the pallet. So I mean, I guess what we really would do is we'd break the pallets in half, but that's incredibly arduous, and you lose a lot of cans when you do that. So we were just hoping that somebody would kind of take some pity on us and let us move our cans.
And they have to be in an enclosed box truck? They couldn't be on some other sort of a trailer?
Yeah, they would blow. I mean, they're so light that they don't. That they would kind of.
They can't go
they wouldn't make
sideways?
it. They wouldn't. They wouldn't make it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The tricky part here is, and especially with the weather, you know, we're tasked with making sure that we're keeping our roads in good shape, and it's just been it's been a particularly special
Right.
year for our roadways. So I can't see pushing this through right now, given the state of our roads. You know, if you're talking about overweight.
We're talking about a very light cans, but it is a truck, and it's one trip of 1 mile from Youngtown Road, which is obviously a road that's you know, it's relatively strong, but it's something that we just simply need to have done. So I don't know what else to do it except to beg, because it's something that just has to happen for our business. We literally have commitments to our customers all over the state, and if we can't produce product, we're out of business. And so we really need this. So we're willing to do whatever you want us to do. If Cellar Door was making the request, you know, I mean,
it's not something that you can wait another 2 weeks
we really
for.
can't wait. We can't wait. I mean, we can't even wait a week, honestly.
What is the process that needs change of use?
It's the overweight for the postage.
No, the change of use goes to the planning board
Oh,
because
sorry, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
not knowing
Different.
what the, you know, when a business applies for a permit, they make certain things, we're gonna do this, we're gonna be in, you know, bottling wine or whatever it is. And when you change to do something different that has different impacts, so the planning board reviews that so that the neighbors are aware of what's going on. Maybe not in this instance, but it might involve traffic considerations, solid waste considerations, wastewater considerations, lighting you know.
Yeah.
And you just check the boxes as you go to, you know, either makes it or it doesn't. And, you know, these are similar processes from what Andy's just said,
But not the same.
but, you know, even if the outside of the building didn't change and somebody wanted to put up a Walmart, not to pick on Walmart, you know, well, the building didn't change. Well, that's obviously a change of use, and what is and what isn't.
Well,
Yeah.
again, they have been producing product for us, so in that sense, nothing's gonna change. They were legally entitled to do it under their license, and they have been doing it.
But they didn't have the appropriate approval from the town of Lincolnville to do your product that they've been doing.
They did though, because it was part of the, when they get the winery license, they're allowed to produce wine for themselves or on a contract basis. That was part of their approval. So they did have the right to do it.
So
the only thing
is-
that's different is they're taking our canning line instead of theirs, which is really the same thing. It just happens to be ours.
So is cider wine?
Yes,
Oh, interesting.
it is.
Virtually the same or the same?
No,
You know,
it is exactly the same process.
Okay.
these are things
Okay.
that planning boards cipher out.
Okay, so the long and the short of it is that unfortunately we have two issues at play here, and the first one in my mind that is taking precedence is the fact that you're seeking to gain access and approval to move things under your business to a facility that has not yet been approved by our municipality through the planning board to do those business practices. And so for this board to approve an exemption to the overweight permit would be very much the cart before the horse. I mean,
Well, what we've agreed already with Frank is that we will not operate as Freedom's Edge Cider in that facility. It will just continue to be Cellar Door producing product for us, and we will not take receipt of the product at the facility or sell product out of the facility. It will just be them continuing to make it, but they need these cans to make it. So that's what we're really requesting on behalf of Cellar Door. So we are completely expecting to go through whatever process and be as clear as you guys want and transparent with the planning process, but what we need right now is the right to get the cans in the door, because if we don't have that, we're out of business.
And the cans only weigh 3,000 pounds?
Altogether, they were less than that.
It's the truck.
It's the
Right.
truck. Yeah, the truck weighs,
And just because
yeah, it has
they're
to be in a
too-
tractor trailer. Yeah, I'm sure the truck weighs 35,000 pounds.
I guess I'm still having trouble understanding why you can't just like put a tarp over it or something and anchor it in an open trailer that would be lighter.
I mean, if we're,
I mean,
I think if you guys refuse us the permit, we will do something like that. We'll put it on a trailer, but it's gonna be really, dangerous and messy and terrible.
Yeah, Steve.
The thing that concerns me more is the second request in this is for 72,000 pounds.
Yeah, we can wait on that. If you guys tell us that's too heavy, we can wait until again, but we're not out of business if we don't have the second shipment, but we are out of business if we don't get cans there this week.
Well, if it's a matter of being out of business or doing something really messy and arduous, like bringing them in on a trailer, covering them and doing the best you can and losing 30%,
Yeah,
because, yeah, that's what happens. But,
yeah.
I mean, I'd rather stay in business and lose
Well,
30% of my cans myself.
If we have to, we'll do that. I just thought, given that our
Yeah.
request I thought was pretty reasonable, I thought you guys would help us out, but I totally understand your point of view. I don't mean no disrespect, and we certainly weren't trying to do anything that wasn't, as transparent as could be.
Yeah,
But-
absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
you've got the full sympathy of this
Oh,
board.
yeah,
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just that the road will sustain damage, and we have to consider that.
Well, I could understand that if we were asking to make, 2 trips a day, but given, what trucks go down there as of right, school buses and fuel delivery trucks and everything else, we're taking an almost empty tractor trailer down there on a trip of 1 mile for one single trip. I think we'd be willing to put up a bond to insure against any damage that happened to the road for that one trip, but I think we all reasonably could say that it's very unlikely that any damage could happen to the road during that trip.
Are there any other questions for Andrew right now? I think I'd be curious to ask our public facilities director to weigh in as it's
You have to be here.
his signature on those posted signs, and just to clarify, kind of the mechanics of what we're
Sure.
being asked to consider here. Any other questions for Mr. Kaplan? Thank you so much, and please
Thank you,
understand
guys.
we're
No, I
Yeah.
do, and I understand this has all come very suddenly, which is, our fault for that. We just really, didn't anticipate that it was gonna take so long and the posted road season would start, and then once the posted road season started, it would literally never be below 32 degrees again, so
Yeah.
we're hit with this, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Matt, would you mind coming up, thanks? Yeah, would you care to just briefly weigh in on the implications of the request?
You know the policy, right? We
Yeah.
posted 23,000 pounds. Home heat and fuel, school buses are exempt. I don't know what a home heat and fuel truck weighs, or if it's full or half empty when it goes up Youngtown Road, but it's probably 40,000 pounds, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, all I gotta do is follow the policy, right? That's,
Yep.
I posted them right now until May 1st. I did March 1st to May 1st, not knowing what the weather's gonna bring.
Yeah.
They might get lifted earlier, but it's
Yeah.
not gonna happen this week or next week with this weather.
Yep.
Do you have anything more specific that I can?
Well, it's just, trying to weigh out,
We had the same conversation with Casella.
yeah,
Need to get, but trash removal is not in the ordinance as an exemption,
yeah,
like public safety and.
Yep.
So.
okay. Any other questions for Matt while we've got him in the hot seat?
So this weight is similar, you're saying, to the fuel oil or the school bus?
I would say, right, depending on how full the heat and fuel truck is, where it is on its trip, or a loaded school bus, yes. The 35,000, not 72.
Right, no, but
But-
we're only I think we're only talking about the 35,000 and this
Yeah.
week, the time-sensitive thing, right?
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah,
you're right there with your weights on those, I would say.
okay. Any other questions for Matt? All right, you can run away. I hate to be the ultimate bureaucrat, but I just, for me, it keeps coming back to, I have so much sympathy for the circumstance, that, Freedom's Edge Cider finds themselves in. However, from a procedural standpoint, I'm hung up on the fact that, I wanna get town approval, I wanna get those boxes checked before this board approves the applicant, which is Freedom's Edge Cider, asking for an exemption in this case. So, my feeling is to table it until those approvals.
Table it and hope for a big freeze, because our hands are pretty much tied, it seems to me.
The requests were coming from.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, you were gonna say something?
I don't know, to me, Matt's comment that each and every school bus or whatever is in that similar weight, I would be inclined to let this one shipment go. But I mean, I hear you on the whole procedure thing and all, but there was no intent to try to skirt the rules. It's just something that's unfortunately taken longer and there were misunderstandings, but to me, that's the bad kind of bureaucracy that can't make an exception for something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, Steve.
I'm caught up on that, on the procedural item, but as far as the exemption, I mean, following section 5 of, there's no other route, it's of economic necessity. I think they're very clearly showing that, and it says part C, they have to tender some sort of bond or security. I'd like to find a way to, business is an important part of our community, and I hate to get in the way of somebody that's conducting business, hiring people, et cetera, in our community.
Okay.
I too am hung up on the procedural part of that, but I agree with what Steve just said. But I also would like to bring to the board's attention that for, I don't know how many years we did this, but we had posted signs up and we did approve passage on on High Street for Andrews Brewing Company. And it happened 3 years in a row, I believe. I was on this board. And it's something that, I'm not sure if there was an ask for a bond or whatever, but it does say here, it's something we've done before. Maybe not in this particular situation. And I'm a little, I'm not really clear on why there would need a change of use when Celador Winery is still doing exactly what they were doing with you before. But maybe a little bit more, I don't know, maybe that's where the change of use is. But I too promote business in this town, and we need all the business we can get. We can't be driving people out. But if there's a procedural situation prior to approving this, it needs to be straight.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel really torn, really torn in this particular circumstance. And I know Mr. Kaplan said, well, if it was cellar door, but unfortunately it isn't, and here we are.
think that's what the hangup is.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that is, you know, I hear you, Robin, but unfortunately, that is our role, you know, I mean, we are bound, you know, much like the public facilities director mentioned, you know, it's the ordinance is what the ordinance is, and, yeah. David, you look thoughtful.
The only thing that everybody in the room has, or nobody said that I'm aware of, is the people that built and paid for the road have put a substantial investment into that road. And I realize that Solidor pays a substantial amount of money every year, but the damage occurs to these roads is unseen until it's too late. And every overweight trip causes damage. And I know that we're talking later tonight, in 2 weeks from tonight, investing roughly $600,000 to do 2,200 feet of road. And that's twice as far as the request, or half as much as the request. And, you know, I can sympathize with people. On the same token, it's a bit of poor planning too. There's no reason cans couldn't get in there or totes couldn't have been in there weeks ago. Maybe the road's frozen, maybe it's not. It's just, at whose expense do you make the decision to waive the protection of the road?
Yeah.
And that's up to you folks to decide.
Yeah. So, does anyone wish to make a motion?
I move that the board table this request until such time as the need for a change of use permit is established and if found necessary, the permit obtained.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much.
You might ask the rest of the question.
Yeah.
Oh,
All those
Opposed.
opposed.
oh, yeah, those opposed, sorry. With apologies.
That's fine.
And we wish you the best of luck considering the circumstances. Okay, moving along, we have agenda item number 9. We have Mr. Leary here, who has kindly come in to speak to us about the Lincolnville Improvement Association's request.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the time. So, you know, a quick minute on Lincolnville Improvement Association. You know, it's an organization that's been around since the late 40s, and we predominantly focus on scholarships for high school kids. Probably spend $7,000–8,000 a year plus on scholarships. Then beautification projects, usually a you know, once or twice a year there's a special project, like the toy library at the beach was last year that we had sponsored, and a variety of other things, Christmas lights for the trees, so on and so forth. All those projects are funded through cash donations and fundraising and things of that nature. Last year, we requested money from the town and received $1,500, and it was geared towards providing our ability to go online. They have a website online. We added about $1,000 of cash to that and some other voluntary efforts, and it will be launching our basic website this spring. We weren't able to do it fast enough for last season, but we're doing it this spring, and that's a really good thing. What we're also trying to do, which is the request for this year, is to put, if we are granted the request this year, we're going to put the money towards expanding that platform to be able to do things like manage our membership online, be able to take orders for things online, put a shop online, and so forth. So the additional funds this year would be geared 100% towards that. One thing I just want to note, that going through this process, a conversation we've been having with some of the other nonprofit organizations, like Lincolnville Business Group and others, is that every nonprofit organization probably has the need to use some of these online type resources for selling tickets, taking orders, buying things. So one of the things we're doing as we are improving the Lincolnville Improvement Association site is we have an eye towards, in essence, building what I might call a cyber infrastructure that other organizations could leverage. So if we're able to put an infrastructure together that can take orders for people, if we're throwing a bean supper or something, or sell a ticket to an event, if we're able to do it for the LIA, why wouldn't other organizations be able to leverage that same infrastructure? And so just how some organizations might have a town, like a meeting place that other organizations could use, we kind of want to build out this cyber infrastructure that other organizations can use. So as we're designing this next phase, that's our eye is toward, can we pull that off without causing a lot of problems underneath, like with financial accounts and stuff like that. And I've been told there's ways of doing it, and so we're exploring it. And we had some interest from some additional groups to kind of possibly put some of their time and resources toward it. So in the end, I'm kind of hoping that this if we get this grant, this next round of funding will go towards either completing our own, which will go towards doing that, or even better yet, completing our own and making it usable for other nonprofit organizations. So that's kind of more of the vision and why we're doing it this way. So that's for the request for going forward. And I know that just in order for the LIA and other organizations to remain relevant, we need to have online access for the next generation coming through. That generation transacts online, they meet online, they do everything online, or at least have an online option. And we're trying our best to establish that for the LIA going forward. So when they hand off this, the management of this to someone else, they'll have something to build off of. So that's the idea. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, Karen.
So with the ask, now that we hear what your plan is and all of that, and considering what you asked for last year and asking 1,500 this year, the end result is gonna be a robust way to, I guess a robust way to market the town of Lincolnville and what's going on in the town of Lincolnville.
What's interesting about it, with just the funds that we're asking for, you don't get there. I mean, they just don't go as far as you think. But the idea is you're dead on right. When I was talking to the Lincolnville Business Group, for example, we were having this conversation of why can't we build an infrastructure that, in the case, the businesses could be on, and I have more thoughts towards the nonprofit organizations, there's so many different ones around town that could just use that extra help. But just think about it is if the businesses in town, they go through doing their printed catalogs, things of that nature every year that has ads in it and all that stuff. The Lincolnville Business Group will move that online. But what if we were able to join some resources, and all of those sites need content? Different groups around town have content, but we make it easy for us to put the content online, and then everybody benefits. In essence, you can get a domain like the a Lincolnville domain that the LBG has, and you can make it like a town-wide resource for people to have their own independent websites linked in, but a whole platform where people can leverage the infrastructure for town-wide type stuff. So the vision is kind of what you're describing, and my articulation of that vision is a little bit centered around the nonprofit side of it to help the folks out who, not everybody can turn around and spend $3,000 or $4,000 just to put a website up. So you're trying to leverage that, but expand it into the businesses around town, establish an infrastructure, a cyber infrastructure for the town would be kind of the broader vision of it all.
Well, just to finish my question, your answer with a question, is 1,500 enough?
No, that's why I'm just, last year, I think we asked for 2,000 or 2,500, got 1,500, so I
Yeah.
figured if I got 1,500 last year, I'm kinda hoping if I don't go over, I might be able to get 1,500
Go
again
for
this
the
year.
solid bid.
I'm trying to figure out where my,
Well, I gotta
my
be
being a
real
good
honest.
citizen about fits
I
in
gotta be
there.
real honest with you, when I saw that there was no progress, when actually there was progress
Yeah.
last year, I was thinking, why would I even lobby for the
Exactly right.
1,500, but.
That's
now
why
I'm
it's so
asking-
valuable,
Yeah,
yeah.
but now I'm wondering, is 1,500 enough? And it isn't, I knew in my mind that it isn't
No.
enough money, but
So,
what's the targeted?
so if you,
End result.
if you think beyond the idea of just establishing the infrastructure, that has a number to it. And I would say you're able probably to do it in the span of what we're talking about, if you really did it town-wide, you'd probably be able to establish the infrastructure with like $6,000 or less. The thing about it is, what about ongoing? Where all this stuff falls apart is that when you want to update content, you know, you have to have a PhD to figure out how do I exactly get it online and do this and do that and so on and so forth. And so so basically the idea here is, can we establish an infrastructure and then eventually have an organization managing that, probably paying them a little bit of money to do so, but making the contributing entities and organizations say, oh, I have content, I just gotta hand it in. I hand it in bulletin form or send pictures in, and then it's online. Or I wanna put advertising on this platform somehow, and I pay to do it, but it's simple for the end user to do it, while all of the more challenging pieces happen behind the scenes, and they're somewhat funded. So you're not asking everybody just to volunteer, because the volunteer stuff, you know, you get somebody with interest, it goes for a while, and then it just circles the drain, and you're out of, and then all of a sudden you got this $6,000 infrastructure sitting there and just getting old, and basically it becomes, obsolete. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So this is a little bit of it. We're doing a little bit of a crawl, walk, run. And for the LIA piece of it, we're at the crawling stage, kind of making it walk a little bit outside the colors. If we can prove it out a little bit and get some interest, maybe it gets up and we do some walking. So that would be, that's kind of the idea behind it.
Thank you.
So, you bet. Any other questions?
Just curious, you talked about leveraging, would you be like monetizing access to that infrastructure at some point?
And what would be interesting, and again, this now, I'll speak personally on this, because this is not anybody else's, what would be kind of what I think would be a good thing to do is if you're able to do it with the business community, and you had business community sponsoring, the more they wanted to have a footprint on the platform for advertising their business and so on, that would be a paid thing. And others behind the scenes, nonprofit organizations could kind of ride the coattails of them in the back end of the system. And then you do this enough so that what you end up having for the business community and the tourist community is an app on your phone. So not only do you have the website that is, kind of gets us into about 2018, 2019, but we walk around with, I'm gonna go visit Lincolnville, so I download the Lincolnville app, and then that's probably driven and sponsored by the businesses, but you get links from it no matter where you are. So you'd have the town map on there and all that, and what's there to do in Lincolnville and so on, and it's just sitting in the palm of your hand. That would be kind of a tie in everything together. I think that would be like a really interesting vision of how you can just build all this and make it all happen. Yeah.
So in the walk phase, the
Yeah.
crawling to walking, small business in town that can't really afford a decent website presence. I mean, there's a lot of small businesses out there that
Right.
just have a Facebook page.
Right.
Are you envisioning this would replace that, or maybe not replace it, but at least be akin to that, where?
I think if you're in a small business where this is what I would hope we'd be able to do. If for the LAA we're able to do, because we sell merchandise, some shirts or whatever, some cool hats if you're really looking for one. We sell these stuff, and so you can So we'd have a little shop online. So you could, you take an order, you get that, okay, so if you have basically the shop set up, and it's now with Shopify or something like that, what about the small business who wants to do that also? And now, some small businesses, it all depends on their size. If they could leverage our infrastructure and we're able to separate out like where the bank accounts and all that stuff come in and where credit cards are taken and all that stuff, which is the tricky part. But if we're able to do that, then the small business has their Facebook page. Maybe they have a one-pager website, but now they're able to do some transactions online, which would be kind of cool. And again, it would give that business an opportunity to do their crawl, walk, run. So until they're big enough to do it on their own, they'd leverage this. So that's why I think of it more towards the nonprofit organization, like we have organizations like at the cemeteries, like we got the cemetery, or maybe they're having an event that says, wow, we're raising some money for the cemeteries, and I just need this as a pop-up event. We need to sell some tickets for it, and we're going to take some donations for it. If they can leverage the back end of this and say, okay, they'll send out emails to all their constituents and everything, well, leverage this, this area to take a donation and or buy a ticket to an event, and you're able to do it without having that organization, spend the money on the infrastructure or whatever. And maybe it's a little fee on it or something, I don't know, but that's kind of the idea behind it. So it's just part of, from an LIA standpoint, this is kind of what we do things for the community, and if we're building it for ourselves, why can't we build it for the community, is the question. And I'm trying to figure out the answer to it. There's hurdles to get over, but I'm trying to figure out how to get over those hurdles and make it happen, and how much it really costs to do it. So.
Thank you so much.
You
It's so invaluable having these face-to-face conversations with budget requests so that we can really understand.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly, and I missed my other window, and I apologize for that. So I thank you for taking the time to do this today.
We appreciate you for coming into us. Yeah, thank you.
And the other thing, real quick, and from the LIA perspective, if there's any help needed with that topic a little bit at the top of the meeting, relative to the parking lot, if we need a voice from the community to help with some leveraging with the state, the LIA will provide that voice with others also. So
Thank you.
Bet. Thank you.
In that same vein, the chair of the budget committee, Ed O'Brien, is here to talk to us about provider agencies. Which, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and chat about your process.
So, do you have questions? We have made our recommendations, and I can explain to you a little bit how we came about those. Or
Sure, there were some specific questions.
How do you come up with 1958 for?
No.
Yeah.
sorry.
You knew what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think that would be, if I recall, it was probably figuring out the math. And we didn't actually round that. There's a mathematical formula involved with it. John Williams had to do with that.
Say no more.
And it wasn't until afterwards.
Was there a graph?
Oh, it made sense, but we should have rounded it, and I felt really bad for the town office that we did not. So maybe you could fix that for us. But yeah, that was the reason for that. That was sort of like hemmed and hawed a lot about that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I am curious about WCAP,
Yes.
how they went down. And I know you had some reasoning, but what was it? Just curious.
So the thing about WCAP for the last couple of years, last year they came in to kind of explain their process of how they got to that. Now, I've been in the budget committee for a long time, and to me it always sort of made sense that I did. It's very tied into their formulas. They're very much, but I think that one of the big concerns was that there was a lot of money in the reserve funds, which they really could not explain where that was for or where that was, what was happening with that. I think it was 100 million. I don't know how much it was exactly. I could find it somewhere in this. I found it earlier. But last year, that was a big concern that actually led the budget committee to agree to bring it down last year. And we had someone come in again this year, and I think the budget committee as a whole was still not satisfied with their explanation for why they had all this money sitting in reserves. And I don't think they did a very good job trying to explain that. I think there probably is a good explanation out there, but in 2 years of them coming to us, they haven't satisfied the budget committee. Okay. And so we sort of brought it down. The other thing to remember is we looked at sort of what we spent in the last few years, and started off with an idea of, okay, we really, we know there's a lot of increases everywhere. and we've got new requests, and we want to be mindful of trying to ballpark it without that being a deciding factor for anything, but kind of looking at everything combined while looking at each one individually, but also with a mind to, it could really easily get out of control because there's so much need in this community, and we really have to say, okay, what is creating the biggest impact on our town and for the dollars we can spend on this.
Mhm.
So that's a really big consideration for the budget committee when we look at this. And there are definitely some rather tough decisions made in this,
Of course. Yeah.
and some no-brainers.
I mean, it's just those little anecdotes. I've so enjoyed sitting in on the budget committee's process of interviewing and reviewing provider agencies, and I have to be honest, I was, in my earlier select board years, sort of philosophically not understanding why we do provider agencies, but after sitting in on the budget committee's process and seeing how comprehensive and in-depth your questioning is and how it impacts our community, knowing that the recommendations that are put forth here are really well thought out and considered, it's, you know, it's brought me around, so I appreciate.
Well, thank you, Leah,
time
for that.
and
You
it-
appreciate that.
Yeah, yes, yep.
So, back to WCAT.
Mm.
Has the budget committee had a conversation, and I know that's a concern, not being able to explain money in the bank,
Yeah.
so to speak. Was there a conversation about maybe we back this off completely if they can't, because that's, if they've got
Right.
a lot of money in the bank.
I think that the part of it is, I mean, part of it is, of course, we do recognize WCAP, if any of these agencies, if you want to find out exactly what the impact is, they do a really good job saying, here's what we do, here's the spending. And I think, you know I can give plenty of anecdotal stories from people I work with who have been really helped by this agency. So I think that's probably part of it, is we really recognize the good they do. I mean, my sense is they're trying to build a building, but I don't think they explain that well to us. But that's my guess, is that they're trying to, I know they're trying to build a building because they're stuck in a really unsatisfactory things, and having it makes sense for them to be saving for that, but they need to be able to express that to us. If that's what they're doing, I assume, but I don't know. And so we kind of kept coming around, and I think maybe they're just presenting people who didn't have the right knowledge. But it's 2 years in a row we've kind of had the same conversation. I also know that COVID funds kind of threw everybody off because everyone got flooded with money and something that's not there anymore. And so there's other things. Again, that's not my responsibility to figure out. It's their responsibility to sell it to us and explain why our town, we should be, recommend the town payers pay their tax dollars for that.
Any other questions for Ed?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for
Not at all.
for
I
taking the
appreciate watching your process. It's been a long time since I've seen a select board meeting. I'm not running.
Sometimes it's not good.
And I don't know if this is appropriate right now, but I did want to share that, as you guys I'm sure are aware of the school budget meeting, the school board has communicated with the principal, who's brand new at figuring out this whole budget thing, and asked him to kind of reconsider what do you really need and what can you take off the table. And so they are planning the week of the 25th, it's not scheduled yet, a second school budget workshop to kind of look at hopefully a reduced budget than what was proposed. So the
Okay.
chair of the school board asked me to pass it on to you guys.
Okay, thank you for that.
Perfect, yeah, good to know.
All right, moving along, we have
Thank you, Ed.
Mr. Gary here to talk to us about cell phone service or
My favorite
lack
topic.
thereof yeah, in the community.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the agenda. I don't know, I'm just looking for some conversation. I know you can't resolve this. I'm not looking for you to jump through some hoops. I do feel that it is a major concern, especially with a survey that I did, and I'm sure you have the maps in front of you, but, and that was just with 2 companies. I could not get anybody to come from another company to participate in that. I found it very interesting for myself, finally know what's going on and how it's going on from a first-hand basis. But I basically just feel that, especially in the center, Lincolnville Center is pretty well zeroed right out. And I can even tell you that when you reach a certain point in time, it just shuts off completely. There's nothing. I did speak to 2 cell phone companies. I talked about any upgrades or anything that they were planning. And there are no plans for the next 6 months to do any upgrades in the town of Lincolnville. That is talking to a, not a store, but that's talking to cell phone technical support for the two companies. And they're not planning to do too much. I did find that one company had better service in town than another. And I found that quite interesting. So, but on a safety issue, I do think that especially around the center of town, it's unfortunate. And again, I just wondered if you had some thoughts, conversation, go from there.
I have a question. So
Yes.
green is service. What defines service?
Service was talking to a landline and
Yeah.
not another cell phone, because I didn't want to blame, if I called Steve, I didn't want to make sure that his cell
Yep.
phone wasn't kicking in. So we were talking to landline phones.
Yep.
At the same time,
Yep.
the two of us were talking to different people
And, and being able to have a conversation.
and have a conversation
Okay.
without it going, yeah.
Yep.
So, anyway, so, yeah, and I, where you see the double lines, both had service.
Yeah.
Where you see one didn't and one did, and that's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Interesting. Because I feel like this storm that we just had, the power was out. I had nothing.
Well, I shouldn't, I have to be, for full disclosure, I gotta tell you what happened with that, just so you know, without being upfront. So my phone, I've been on Wi-Fi at my house because I didn't feel I could use it, and I didn't, and I haven't been able to use it at my house unless I was going through the Wi-Fi. But the power went out on Sunday. I was able to use my phone in my house where I hadn't been able to use it before.
You were.
I was able to use the phone. I know, I'm sorry, it's conversation. This is conversation. And I'm absolutely, so today, I shut the Wi-Fi off. And before, with my provider, when I went to the refrigerator in the kitchen, if I sat in the living room in one place under the Wi-Fi, I could talk. But if I went out to the kitchen to get a drink out of the refrigerator, completely shut off. Or if I went upstairs in the bedroom and I walked to the bureau, it shut off completely. But today, we did that where the Wi-Fi shut off again, and I had service in those places. Don't ask me now whether the storm kicked them something, an antenna somewhere or something. I don't know, but
Probably
just for full disclosure,
Yeah.
and this, like I said, I came here not expecting to have an answer from you folks. It's basically, I just wanted some conversation and your thoughts surrounding it. But Lincolnville Center, nothing has changed as far, that is horrible service, horrible service. And I'm sorry for the folks that are being, that are paying for service that they can't use in there. And the other thing is, I found out, which was news to me also, I did some research. I didn't want to expect you guys to do everything or whatever. And I did find out that wireless companies are not controlled by the PUC.
Ah.
So there's no control on that. Internet, yes, they do have, PUC does have some control on internet. Yeah, it's an interesting, and it's one of those sticky situations like you've already had to deal with tonight, where it could be this, but maybe this, and it's, anyway. So, anyway, you can ask me any questions you want, but I just wondered if there was any other conversation that the town thought. The other thing is, I really wanted to get it out there to the public the best I could, and maybe somebody will hear us that the town of Lakeville had a conversation about cell phone service. So I don't know what else to say other than that. That's all.
Yeah.
Answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is part of my world. Frankly, it's gotten worse, not even stayed the same for the last 5 years in
Yes.
town.
Yes.
And that's simply a matter of the technology. We've had no new towers, and as you go from 3G to 4G to 5G technology, each version with the same amount of transmit power has less distance. Because it's all the bandwidth that people want and all the data, not phone calls, but all the data you want, the actual signal strength goes less distance. Because it's gotta provide more stuff in the small distance it has. So frankly, our service has gotten worse every generation. If you go into the cities, or even Camden, where there might have been 2 towers that covered all of downtown in the past, there's actually 4 or 5. They're hidden in that, oh, it's on the smokestack, and it's in the church steeple, and it's here and there. If you go into cities, big cities, there might be 5 antennas within 1 mile on tops of telephone poles. They don't have to put them way up on a tower, they can put them right on telephone poles for very small distances. So, in my opinion, unless we get some new towers in the community, there's no technology that's gonna make it better. We're not gonna see, US Cellular can't make it any better, Verizon can't make it any better, AT&T can't make it any better. There's going to have to be additional towers. People don't like towers, but it's reality.
Yeah. Yeah, Kern.
That is the same information that I got from Verizon, actually, I think it was a year and a half ago. When actually, I don't even know when the 5G was in its inception, but the people at Verizon told me the technology is what is gonna give you a good signal. You're in an area that is lacking in technology, and they reference our town not wanting a cell
Towers.
tower.
Yep.
When they talked about that, there are things, booster, a cell signal booster, there's the Wi-Fi calling, things of that nature. That's why I don't have any problems. I've got a booster at the house, and we use Wi-Fi calling, that type of thing. So that's why I have, but you gotta do your research. Verizon has got about the strongest network around here.
That's what your
There-
single green line is?
Yes, yes. It would be, I think it would still be a hard sell to get townspeople to realize that we need to have towers around here if you wanna have service. There's the technology that's out there, doesn't look bad. You know, I think you could put, like you said, in the steeple of the church. I mean, you know, it's on telephone poles, you're already looking at things like that. I was a little, I was disappointed when the town shot that down, but ultimately it's gonna be the town that's gonna bring it back. I understand why you came here. I hope some of the people here absorb it from the community and take it a step further. You know, just because we don't see what Lincolnville Telephone Company and Lincolnville Communications hasn't got, there are towers. We have them here in town. We have dishes, things of that nature for signal. You know, the town has gotta step forward, the town has got to get up with the times, the technology.
Yep.
So,
Well, this is what I was looking for, conversation, and I wanna get it out there so that some of the, cause a lot of people do not understand this, and it's hard to comprehend. The when you're talking about the technology thing, I did have a technician go through that with me, again, and he was really, and I was really kind to him and really said, I just need some explanation. But it was interesting to note that they're not in any way do they want to rent from existing towers? No way.
Well, just add one comment there. There's two major technologies. They're macro and small cell. Macro is what goes up on top of a tower. Small cell is what goes like in a steeple or on a telephone pole. Nobody would invest in small cells in our community because they cost way too much, and it's about being able to connect a ton of users in a small amount of space. So that's why you see small cells in a city. They put them on a telephone pole in a city, and there's 600 users connected. You don't get that, and so they typically in rural communities it's macro, which is you got to have a tower with elevation, and then you also run into the issue of if you're underneath the tower where it sits, you actually have no coverage as well. So like drive by the Camden Hills High School, Camden Hills Regional. Actually, the service up through there is actually not good, and it's because it's too close to Ragged Mountain. And so they actually don't get really good service in a stretch there over in Rockport as well. So,
Any other comments or questions?
Not really, it's, because I just think at a certain point, we have to realize we're living in a very sparsely populated rural area where there isn't the demand. I mean, the return on investment is not gonna happen because of the cost. And I think it's gonna be very difficult. I mean, if the municipality really wants great cell phone service, we're gonna have to pay, I think, through the nose.
no, totally disagree.
So where's the money coming from? Or who's gonna pay for it, I guess?
The cell phone companies want towers, but they don't want to fight the communities.
But, well, 'cause see,
The community can't put up a tower and
then it's in the marketplace.
right.
Yeah, and so it's like, if you got land and you wanna lease a tower, talk to the cell phone company, right? And they look at our ordinance, and my guess is, when they look at our ordinance, they are not gonna see an issue. I don't think they're gonna see an issue. The issue last time had to do where they wanted to place that. That was in our darn scenic view sheds.
That's always where the issue is, because typically where they want the tower is where people don't want the tower, because that's geography. That's the way landscape works. That's the way signals work. It all lines up. And so that's typically most of the time where it's at.
If they've done a survey of our town and compared it to our ordinances already, so be it. But if they haven't done it yet, it's worth looking at. I mean, it's worth making that call if you got the, 30 acres or 10 acres or whatever you have and you wanna lease it out.
Interesting conversation.
Yes, thank you very much for the
Thank you for
conversation.
bringing-
I really had no giant expectations, but I just wanted to get it out there that, make sure that it is a real problem. And I just, if I may, I could probably call her, but Robin, at your house, any reception?
Not really.
No.
No, we always use our Wi-Fi.
We both lost it at your house. We both lost it. So I just wanted to know if you did it. But anyway.
And we're high up.
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much.
Rosie,
and,
thank you.
All right, and like I said, I just wanted a conversation. I had no expectations. So
The
thank you
more
very
we
much.
talk about it, you never know.
Hopefully, this makes it into the paper and somebody else reads the paper and
Yeah.
outside said,
There you
oh,
go.
geez, we better do, oh, they're gonna stir the, you know what?
Oh, boy. Thanks, Rosie. And moving along, Select Person Ray, we have a conversation about community project funding.
That's right, yeah. Well, I think your packet explains pretty clearly the background for this. I just happened to attend an MCOG-sponsored meeting, MCOG and Hancock County Planning Commission meeting, where all the representatives from the 4 congressional districts, Pingree, Golden, Snow, King, came and explained the process for getting these, how they disperse the money, what the grant parameters were and whatnot. So I came back, called up David, said, now, how about we arrange a meeting with the Jared Golden representative, who just is in charge of just getting those grant applications. So David and I sat down with the guy for around an hour or so. And look, he gave us a copy of the initial application, which I have included in your packet. And I just filled it out with some made-up project, which actually Dave and I thought might make a lot of sense, given the amount of time we got. And just thought I'd run it by you all to see if you thought it was worth pursuing.
Mhm.
I tend to think it is, because it's kind of like you got much better odds than playing the lottery. Each office gets around 140, 150 of those applications. They give out 10 $1 million
Okay,
things. Okay? So
okay.
you got a 1 in 14 chance.
I love the positive spin.
Thank you. And, you got a 1 in 14 chance, and I don't think personally, I don't think we'd stand a chance of getting it this time around. But we get it on the desk. And so next year, if we decide to do this, if town decides to do this, they're gonna say, oh, well, these guys were here before, we might move us up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn the process.
Mm-hmm. I think your suggestion is a really solid one. Although yesterday I had myself questioning just looking at the harbor cam
Yep.
and watching our pier
Sure.
going on a surfing safari again. Not as bad as before. I think
No,
the
no.
weighted bait boxes helped, but so that started
Yeah.
rattling around in my brain is, knowing that if we're lucky enough to have funds reimbursed to us for fixing damage down at our facilities, we're just going back to zero, which almost feels like negative these days with the frequency and the intensity of these storm events that we're having. And so, much to your point about Penobscot Park, but can we think bigger in terms of, our shoreland storm resiliency?
Oh, I think we can definitely think bigger. We kind of came up with Penobscot Park just as a placeholder so I could fill in the lines.
Yeah.
So, we kind of decided on that because, it needs it. It needs hardening bad. But at the same time, it's also something that we figured we could get in under the wire because like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they're going to come out with this. And we don't have time to make a more saleable case, which would probably be you get a regional type of coalition, and you would do, or you got a harbor maintenance plan, blah 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 type of thing. So I just threw that together. And basically, it's to get it on their desk, so they remember next year that Lincolnville was involved. But the crux of the biscuit, the nitty gritty, is how much time the town administrator would have to deal with it. I understand that. And judging by their application, not a whole heck of a lot at all. The hard part comes if you're accepted. If they say, we're gonna give you $1 million.
Then you've got to administrate that.
Oh, God, then you're going through an agency, and they just shovel it off to another agency. Food and whomever, whatever, federal agency out there. And then you've got to meet their requirements, and you have to go through all this incredible amount of hoops. But at this point, it's like getting an application in and perhaps soliciting a few letters of support relevant to whatever the application is. And those letters of support, in the case of, let's say, we were to do the hardening riprap thing at the beach, you get one from the Recreation Commission. Conservation Commission, you could get one from who has the easement? Mid-Coast.
Coastal.
Coastal Mountain, excuse me, not Coastal Mountain, Get one from them. A user. There's someone who walks their dog every day there.
What about the business group?
Probably, I'm sure we'd be able to get it. solicit those fairly easily.
Yeah.
You know, it's kinda like, if I go into the fraternity general store, if I go into the fraternity store in Searsmont, if I buy a ticket, I don't stand a chance at all getting anything. I'd have a better chance getting $1 million from the federal government in a few years if I start now. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Thoughts from the rest of the board?
I think it's well worth what little effort it would take right now. Obviously, it'd be a lot more time consuming down the road if awarded, or put on the desk, though.
But for $1 million,
Yeah.
like I'd spend the time, yeah.
The truth is that we're going to, this is a problem we are going to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to tackle
yeah.
with or without grant money.
Hmm? Might as well
So,
find it.
yeah, so in my mind, if we can have some financial tools at our disposal to help that process, why not? Okay, so, since we've invoked the name of the town administrator a number of times,
Yeah, he might wanna chime in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or not.
Yeah, I'm always the guy that's putting up hurdles and things. Just a couple things popped to mind. One, if, depending on which project you all think is most appropriate, do we know how much that costs? Do we have any reasonable expectation that it's $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, 50 cents, whatever it is? And the other is, there is a minimum match of 20%.
Right.
Hopefully nobody's watching from these grant agencies.
Yeah.
I don't think if it's $1 million project, that means we need $200,000
right,
at least.
yes.
I don't think we have $200,000 just kicking around that's designated for whatever that project is, unless you want to say Calderwood Lane, which I don't know is roads fall into their Bailey. Well, whatever. So, what project do you want to do? What's a reasonable cost estimate? Do we have our match?
Well, if we broadened it to coastal reconstruction / climate resiliency, potentially we have a match, right?
From what, exactly from where? The match.
Well, if, you know, I mean, we're looking to ask the taxpayers.
Okay, so you're talking
for-
about the warrant that's coming down the pike, yeah.
I mean, it's not the same, it's not same, but, you know, just playing devil's advocate.
Also, it occurs to me, it might be worthwhile to inquire and find out from them if an application for a matching funds qualifies right now to get it it on their desk. That is, there could be plenty of there could be the warrant article, there could be other grant applications we might wanna pursue while doing this. Say, we have an application in on that. I don't know, that might be sufficient, I don't know. I think that's worth a call to the guy that we met with. And he did not say you have to have it in the bank. You know,
Most grants don't.
David, you look like you were saying something.
I never like to turn down the opportunity to have money or acquire money for the community. However, I also like to apply for things that I have confidence that we have a shot of obtaining. And I'm not sure as we have a mature project to apply for.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they haven't opened up the grant window yet, is my understanding from our meeting with Zach, but it's coming, I believe. And, you know, pick a project. we'll figure out a cost,
Yeah.
or somehow, but
Well, I mean, I get, sorry. go
No,
ahead.
no, I was gonna say, well, if we're just like fishing for a project, I say rip a section out of the Colgan report. No, what's the name of that report?
Collins,
Collins report, thank you. Rip, item,
Yeah.
option number 3, or whatever. They've got the numbers, actually, the cost estimates. Use those numbers, you got a project.
Well, and also the recommendation that our pier, if we were to rebuild our pier, it should be 2 feet higher than it is currently. I mean, I keep thinking about how many times are we gonna replace or put planks back down, or how, those are immediate, sort of tangible.
Yeah.
I mean, as is riprap at Penobscot Park, and I'm just wondering, is it too broad to include, to have it under a label of, I don't know, coastal resiliency at this risk of sounding pithy, but if it's shoreland, I don't know, restructuring or buffering, or, we know that our pier is incredibly vulnerable. It's been 3 storms in 3 months that we've watched that thing float around. Our shoreland is actively eroding, both in Penobscot Park and down at our beach, so, those are.
Well, let me be clear, I'm not at all, like I said, I mentioned Penobscot Park only because it was the first thing that came to mind. That was easy.
Yeah.
I could get that down in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
That's why I chose Penobscot.
Yeah, sure, no, I think it's worthy, but, as David said, that matching, it's the more we expand the concept of the project, the bigger the ticket is,
Sure.
the bigger the match is, and, is that something that we can responsibly take on?
We're gonna be forced to take on the project of rebuilding our parking lot and our can we call it a seawall? I mean, that whole area, we're gonna be forced to
Right, yeah.
make that safe again, and it makes no sense to just dump money into it to
Have it wash away.
have it wash away again, so we gotta, there's a project in my mind right there. That's what I
Definitely.
immediately thought of.
Yeah.
And I understand why you picked Penobscot Park, because it's a placeholder, it's easy, and there's a project there too.
Sure. But no, I'm not wedded to Penobscot Park whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that the town of Lincolnville exploring this option is worthwhile, is worth some time.
Yeah, the question is do we have time to explore this a little
Right,
bit?
and I don't know if we do, I honestly don't. We have a little bit longer than we had last year, because last year we got a letter and said in 3 days you have to get your thing in. Or before we met next time, we had to make a decision that time.
Yeah.
I have to ask, it's specifically this stag thing, but it seems to say in 2 different places that it's limited to municipal sewage treatment plants and drinking water treatment plants. And things that are otherwise eligible for funding from the state's clean water or drinking water revolving funds.
I printed that out, and that was one of the many options that you could get through Golden's office. They have a number of options
Okay.
where you can get money through different agencies. And I just chose that one because it had water in it, in the topic. It's just an example of
Okay,
of the
you weren't
flora.
saying that
No,
this.
not at all.
Okay.
pretty much almost anything you can relate to municipal functions, as long as it's not an ongoing cost. They're looking for specific projects. They're not looking to fund a community development office that you're gonna have a payroll for ever.
Yeah.
They're looking for something to build, and
Yeah, no, I really wish we the town had the reserves of staff who could just be working on these projects that they could just send in, but we don't.
Yeah.
And so, but I think we're always gonna be in that position unless we get a lot of money and have staff who do nothing but writing grants.
Yeah.
And
Doubtful.
exactly, yeah, we know that's never gonna happen. And consequently, this, to me, looks like a way to get started. You know, and my guess is that it would be far from a perfect application,
So,
but it gets us started.
would it be unreasonable to ask the board members to say, go away from this meeting and put some thought into projects and then come back to our next meeting and talk about
I
it?
don't think so at all, because we don't know when they're gonna open up the grant window, and we don't know. My guess is the way Washington is so dysfunctional, we may not be seeing that in our lifetimes.
What
Yeah,
happened to the optimism?
To the optimism, still optimistic, but just practical.
What's the board's thoughts? Would
Makes a lot of
you
sense
all
to
be
me.
willing to kind of go away and contemplate worthy projects and scope and
Each one of us come up with a couple of projects,
Yeah.
we've got options.
yeah, do it something really tangible that, you know, if we were to need to ask for a match, that we could, you know, go to the voters with a straight face and say, this is something that we're looking to do. 'Cause, you know, to David's point, if we're going to do that, then we're gonna have a really solid plan behind it.
I go right back to the two, the pier. There's gonna be a project there, whether it be from the Collins report or whether it be to get it back so that it's functional the way it needs to be. And our area at the parking lot / beach, those two right there, you could dump $2, $3, $4 million in both of them. I think, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
I'm a mechanic, not an engineer, but you know, I think those two projects they most likely are gonna be first and foremost on any project list that we've got, you know,
I agree.
not small projects,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking, you know what I mean?
If we were to pursue it, I mean, I think it's a little bit of futile, not futile, just a fool's errand to some extent to say, each of us go off and come up with a project or two we think would be valid. I think what Vern just mentioned, those two are highest on, I think, every one of our plates. The bigger question is, how do you dot the i's and cross the t's to come up with a
Well, I guess that was more my point, is
Right.
putting some more constructive thought into it instead of just saying, well, the
Right.
waterfront,
because
you know?
every grant I've ever been involved in, they're pretty intense. There's a lot of requirements. There's X, Y, and Z, and we don't know what we don't know right now.
We could have another storm and it would change our list,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. So, where do we go from here?
Well, do you want it back on the agenda next time and see if we come up with anything?
Well, it seems like there's
I
general
mean,
consensus
I'm
that,
happy to do just that.
that we feel like the water, you know, the real question, I guess maybe this is a question for David, you know, so that we're not throwing this big amorphous question in your lap, is if the board is interested in tackling some projects that we are already tackling, how can we help facilitate this in a more constructive manner rather than just, you know, the magic wand?
Define the project that you wish to proceed forward with. We'll figure out a reasonable cost estimate, then you'll have to figure out your match, and we'll apply. There's always more projects than there are money. I think we can know that when you look at the budget. These are big projects. They're looking to find a project that the community wonders how it's going to pay for. And, you know, you've already tapped your taxpayers pretty hard, you've reached out and maybe got some other grant funding, and you need something to push you over the top. So they can make the big splash and, you know, issue the press release that, look what we did for you and your community, and we made you get where you wanted to be. But
I feel like it's a really great idea. I just feel like we're like this far away from being able to pull the trigger. You know, I just.
Oh, yeah, I agree, but see, I just don't see this town ever pulling the trigger
Yeah.
unless we get started. I just
Yeah.
don't see it ever happening.
Yep.
And, just because of the resources.
Yeah.
We don't have them.
Yeah.
And,
I can't commit, personally, I can't commit the town's resources to this right this second. I mean, we haven't had our priorities workshop
Yeah, I
yet
know.
this
I
year.
know.
There's
That's a good point.
Yeah.
so much stuff on the plate.
well, there is,
and
yeah.
Yep.
This is awesome, it's a great, but
It really is.
I can't go there.
Yep. Well, I guess we'll just consider it fertile food for thought, and we'll.
It might be worth our while to have a workshop on just this topic, not this grant application topic, but to see how we might want to approach other grant opportunities in the future. Because if we're always falling behind, and if we are always defaulting to the list, I think we might wanna see how we can, reconcile all of that.
Yeah, we've gotta have that board workshop, I think, so we'll, I think make that a priority first and foremost, to get that scheduled and have that, and then go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, yeah.
All right.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
do you have a general idea of when that would be scheduled?
I mean, ideally long before we were in budget season, but that's too late, and so I feel like really as soon as possible, you know, in the next couple of months. I think, you know, we're way behind in having it anyway, and so I think, you know.
Yeah, no, I had a feeling
the
that
soonest, yeah.
that's what you were thinking, and I was
And
just.
probably if it's okay with everybody, like on an off Monday, just keep a Monday, but not try to lump it in with another agenda,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I'll put my head together with David and, see if we can make that happen, and then therefore, hopefully we can have some more constructive thought behind really good suggestions like yours, Mike.
Sounds good.
Okay. Moving on, we have a couple of EMS matters to chat about. And David, would you like to talk first? I'm gonna run to the ladies' room real quick if it's okay.
David, you're on.
I'll be fast.
should I sing a musical interlude or like?
No, you can talk about the letter.
Well, we've, I presume the other three communities that we collaborate with for EMS service received a similar letter. Our contract with Northeast Mobile Health Services goes through June of 2025. It has an adjustment within the contract language for an annual increase, depending on a certain CPI indicator or no less than 4%. This year, Northeast has had some changes in their business model, I guess is the best way to put that, in terms of a loss of the vast majority of the transfers that they were doing and charging, which was in turn subsidizing our E911 service. And they, excuse me, they proposed a substantial increase to the 4 towns to continue service. And what Northeast has done is said, in essence, the contract requires us to provide you 6 months' notice for termination of service, and we don't have any choice but to provide you that notice unless you pony up. And as you know from our budget discussions from last month, budget includes the increase, Lincolnville. At least one of our collaborating partners is having conversations about starting their own EMS service sooner rather than later. And another is a couple of years behind them probably. So there's not, I don't think there's anything new there except Northeast is preserving their contractual arrangements for us to say, we don't get money, we can't operate.
Do we have a Waldo County option, like going toward Waldo County General instead of Penn Bay? Like,
There are limited EMS options in our region, to say the least. And instead of the regional approach that usually is more efficient and effective, we seem to be going in the opposite direction, my opinion, at the
Yeah.
moment.
And to David's, well, to segue off of David's comment about contractual requirements, you'll note in our notes, I'd like the board to talk about amending our contract to remove the existing language requiring all of the partnering towns to meet in the EMS review committee, and eliminate that and replace it with requiring, keeping the requirement of quarterly reviews, but with each individual contracting municipality. Because frankly, not all of our communities have been as committed as others in upholding that part of the contractual agreement, and we just canceled our last EMS review committee meeting because there wasn't a quorum. People just didn't respond. And so I'd rather not waste David's time, my time, or whoever's gonna host the meetings in going through basically what feels like a farce. You know, but I think that these check-ins are really important, so, yeah, so I would love concurrence, and I don't know if we need to send a letter to Northeast
I think we would.
requesting that, or?
I think we would send a request to Northeast for a modification of our agreement that would, I'm winging this off the top of my head, relieve the town of Lincolnville of the burden of being part of an EMS performance review committee and substitute in its place quarterly meeting with the select board.
Is that something you'd want a motion to direct either myself or you to draft that letter, or send a letter, or?
I probably would want to phrase that and bring it back to you all to
Okay,
wordsmith,
okay.
just to make sure I've adequately addressed your sentiments.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense. The only question I have is that will we, if we do this, will we be required to contact the other towns and tell them that this is our intention? I don't see it in the contract.
I would think if we were going to ask to modify our agreement, our agreements are pretty well mirrored from town to town to town, that we would be courteous enough
Yeah.
to CC our
Okay.
collaborating communities in on any correspondence we sent Northeast to modify our agreement.
But basically, a CC is sufficient.
I'd probably CC him, I'd probably give him a phone call, but
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
the phones apparently
notice
only
is
work from
sufficient.
Waldo County to Knox County, not the other way.
Okay.
Does that sound good to everyone?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else on EMS?
That'll be on our next agenda.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Julia, are you just listening in for? Okay. If there's nothing else on EMS matters, we have the consideration of the special town meeting warrant.
So at your last meeting, you reviewed a draft town meeting warrant for special town meeting. We changed the location of the meeting to the school at 6. Have confirmed with the school that that is available. We also met with the budget committee to seek their recommendations on Articles 2, 3, and 5, and they concurred with your recommendations. And we also changed the wording in Article 4 about the easement because the property has been transferred into a trust. The trustees appear willing to grant the easement, but we had to put the right buzzwords in there so that we could take it from the trust.
Okay, sounds good. Is someone willing to make a motion?
I move that the board approve and sign the special town meeting warrant establishing the meeting for March 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. within the Lincolnville Central School.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Very much. And now I would like to open the podium for any public input on the proposed fiscal year 2025 municipal budget.
Oh, okay.
Seeing no one jumping at the chance to input, let's move along to board deliberations. And let's see, whether you have your binder, or you just have your updated, we wanna make sure that we're all working off of the same draft.
March 3rd, 2024?
Yes. And ideally, we will make our recommendations tonight, and so I think as we move off of each page, we will make a motion. Does that make sense?
Okay.
If the board is ready to do so. And I know we have a couple of changes to make in here.
Yeah, you've made a couple at your last meeting that we incorporated in here, and then we'll obviously have some changes with regards to the EMA and Inland Harbor Master positions that you appointed somebody tonight.
Yep.
And we'll dispatch.
Dispatch, we've yet to be able to determine what the change in the amount is. I will say fire in calendar year 2024 is $1,524.
So.
They have a assessment for dispatch, and then they have a special assessment for EMS and another assessment for fire.
So will you just give us a heads up if there's a page that we need to
Sure,
change the numbers on so that,
I'll do my best.
okay. So starting on page 4, administration and finance, is there anything the board wishes to change here? And if not, can I have a motion?
I move the board recommend the amount of $649,052 for administration and finance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. Skipping page 5 as an explanation, page 6, protection animal control. Any questions, amendments, or if not, can I have a motion?
I move that the board recommend $10,846 for protection animal control.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And moving along to protection fire department on page 7. No jumping ahead. Are there any amendments, changes, questions, concerns? If there are none, can I have a motion, please?
I move the board approve $168,631 for protection fire department.
Thank you, so moved.
Second.
Seconded, discussion? Seeing none, all all those in favor? Thank you very much. Skipping page 8, on to page 9. Oh, thank you. This is where we have some amendments.
Emergency management is listed here.
Yes.
And in light of your appointment of the Public Facilities Director as the Emergency Management Director, you would potentially zero out the $3,000 and the $237. In your, because you had us add additional, everybody
Right.
see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Middle.
737?
But there's,
No.
there's, supplies in there, so we don't
So-
wanna get rid of the supplies, so it would
3,000
be,
flat. Oh,
three-
3,000 plus
3,000.
the FICA.
yeah,
So the-
3,237 would be,
The reduction,
would be the reduction.
so it would cut it to 5.
Dave, you have your calculator, right?
I do. I'm just checking to see if there's anything. Knox dispatch is in here, but I don't feel comfortable recommending you take anything from
Yeah.
that at the moment.
I agree.
245, 892, minus
650.
3, 2, 3. I thought I heard somebody make a motion. I was just gonna say.
No.
I said a number, that's all.
Oh. What number did you say?
242, 655.
That was the number this magic machine popped up with too, so.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
$242,655.
Okay. Was that a motion?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $242,655 for protection of.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. Page 10, Town Office Building. Anything here? Questions, comments, concerns, amendments?
David, you changed the, you got, rid of the recommendation for landscaping out front?
That's in the capital
Oh,
improvement
Yeah.
okay.
budget.
Okay.
Yes, I did, but it's in a different page.
Gotcha,
We'll get
thank
to
you.
it.
Okay.
Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the select board recommend $35,802 for the town office building.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 11, contingency. Can I have a motion?
I move that the select board recommend $10,000 for contingency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 12, code enforcement. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the select board recommend $57,933 for code enforcement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 13, assessing. Can I have a motion?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $42,600 for assessing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 14, Public Works, Highways and Bridges. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, can I have a motion?
I move that the select board recommend $1,279,764 for public works, highways and bridges.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Thank you. Page 15, Public Works Transfer Station. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $94,300 for Public Works Transfer Station.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 16, Public Works, Harbor. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
What was it that we backed out? We were gonna use the harbor savings account?
It was $50,000.
That's under capital
That's under
improvement too, for
capital
the strapping and
Yeah.
and the other thing is, I'll have to look when we get to that page.
Darn.
Okay.
Fender piles.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything under Public Works, Harbor? If there isn't, motion please.
I move that the select board recommend the amount of $32,650 for Public Works, Harbor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 17, Public Works Other. We need to reduce this by 1840, correct?
1840, yep. Because the Inland Harbor Master is the first line, and all we ever budgeted for that is paying
Yep.
statutory benefits.
Does anyone have that,
I don't-
that figure? David, can you do them?
Oh,
Math, please.
I can, because apparently Steve's kind of slow on this one. 15, 3,
113,550.
113?
Yep, yep.
Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the select board recommend the amount of $113,550 Public Works Other.
So moved?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 18, Boards and Committees. Questions, comments, concerns? If not, can I have a motion?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $41,323 for boards and committees.
Could
I'm
you
looking at
say
different-
that amount?
I'm looking at
Yeah.
different number.
Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong number. Yeah,
I was gonna.
strike that. I move that the board recommend the amount of $21,862. Much better.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Skipping page 19, which is an explanation on page 20, municipal support. Can I have a motion?
I would move that the select board recommend $3,730.
30,000.
Oh, excuse me, that's right. Yeah, $30,730 for municipal support.
So moved?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much.
Let's go back to
Skipping pages 21 and 22 for explanations. Page 23, provider agencies. Are there any questions here? If not, can I have a motion, please?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $11,508 for provider agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Page 24, here's the famous capital improvement program where everybody's favorite things are.
Or aren't.
Questions here? If not, can I have a motion, please?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $200,000 for the capital improvement program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. What a nice round number that is. Page 25, can I have a motion, please?
I move that the select board recommend the amount of $19,000 for debt service.
So moved,
Second.
seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And here we are at the budget totals, and David, do you have an updated number for us?
No, but we'll add all that up.
I was optimistic. Yes, here's the magical number.
I would suggest that you make some sort of motion on the revenues too.
Okay,
The
sure.
total, the expenditure total will be the expenditure total which for anybody that's listening will be something less than 2.8%, because you just did some deductions.
Okay, so you want,
I think it would be appropriate, if you agree with the what was requested or recommended by staff, the revenue and budget offsets of 1,804,026.
1,804,000, where is that number?
Right above the gray line.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Can I have that motion, please?
I move that the board recommend the amount of $1,804,026 for total revenue budget offsets.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want a net to be, well, I
No.
guess the net to be raised is different, so.
What we'll do is we'll make the changes that you all made tonight, and then provide you with a copy of that for your next meeting, and provide the budget committee with a copy of that, and for whenever they wanna talk to us about
Okay.
the budget.
Steve, how are you doing? Okay, Steve was working under a deadline.
Make it happen.
Steve, how are you?
Always good to know.
Moving along, Kern, do you have an update for us?
It doesn't matter.
I don't care.
I do not.
Kern, how are you doing?
It doesn't matter how. I do not have an update.
Okay, Mike?
I don't have an update either.
Steve?
I have no update.
Robin?
I have no update.
And I have no update, well, other than unfortunately our EMS review committee meeting was canceled due to a lack of total non-response from a certain couple of communities that shall go unnamed, hence my conversation earlier. That's my only update. So, moving along, we have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign with the, David, do you want to talk about the last minute decision?
Last week, the town administrator took Friday off. And so Kayla put the warrant together on Thursday, and then we had a couple of our, more local vendors come in on Friday with their bills, hoping to get paid. And so she asked if she should put the warrant, or add that, and I was thinking it wouldn't be quite as voluminous as it is, but we had